very much. It is extremely busy here at the Emergency Ops Center. If there is some good news to report, it is that in the past hour, we've seen the restoration of about 10,000 customers. I want to go right to a big map they have right here at the CLMP headquarters. And to talk about it, I'm going to bring in Katie Blint of CLMP. Now, we're seeing a lot of black on our screen right now in this map of Connecticut. What exactly does that indicate?
That indicates power outages of up to 100%. And it's not a good situation, of course, but things that's affecting it most are transmission lines that have been damaged extensively that are feeding into the northwest corner of Connecticut and the north central part of Connecticut. And the good news is, however, of the 32 transmission lines that were down, we've brought back 10, and we're hoping that within the next few hours, another 3.
And the biggest problem is the amount of trees down. We've had, what'd you say, 5 times more trees down than we just saw in Irene?
Yes, that's what state officials are telling us, and the extensive tree damage is what's caused this disruption to our transmission system. And transmission lines come from the power plants directly into our substations. So in addition to poles and wires down, we've got this complicating our restoration.
Everybody wants to know when they're going to get their power back. You're saying in some worst-case scenarios it could be a week or longer, correct?
People need to have a plan for that amount of time. Of course, we hope that we can beat those estimates. And what we're seeing is, a lot of folks coming in from out of state to help us from 15 states and as far as California.
All right. Katie, got to rank it up. We want to go right now live to Governor Malloy at the Armory.
Obama has signed an emergency declaration giving us support for commodities, food, water, emergency power, and debris removal. This is a first stage declaration. There are other stages which we will continue to work on, which would allow for reimbursement for expenditures by state and local governments. But this is a good first start, and I want to thank the President as well as our congressional delegation for their help. Since this morning, we can announce that we now have 67 shelters up and running across the state. This is an increase. I did appeal to folks to help us open more of these. They have done that, and we have distributed cots and other ways of supporting those centers. We also have 49 warming centers and charging stations throughout the state. And as I'm speaking to the public in Connecticut, if you have the ability to open up facilities for showering, cell phone charging, and warming, we would appreciate it. So if you're generating your own electricity in an affected area, please join us and contact 211. To let them know that you would like to join the effort in opening up such centers. Also, information about these centers is available through 211, or if you have access to the internet, www.211ct.org will give you that information. Fuel, I want to talk about gasoline. One of the things I did notice when I was flying around the state in the helicopter is that in a number of areas we see traffic backed up waiting for fuel at gas stations. There are a couple of things going on. There is the availability of fuel. It's being delivered, a lot being delivered tonight. What's happened is the stations that are open are being drawn down much more rapidly than the cycles would normally indicate. As a result, the deliveries need to step up. We are informed that deliveries are stepping up to the gas stations that are, in fact, have power. Obviously, there's a lot of stations without power. If you look at the CLMP map, and you'll notice a lot of communities that are not a dark color, but are light color. Gas stations in those communities are open. So you can wait in line for a long period of time, or you can drive for a shorter period of time to get to a community, in some cases not so far away, and avail yourself of gas. I also want to announce that the Attorney General has put in place pricing controls on fuel that will remain in place until November 7th. Again, this is not in response to inadequate supply. There's plenty of gasoline in the state. It's in response to the ability of some stations to pump it out because of lack of power. Tax filings, 2-week delay for Connecticut tax filings and payments, so they are extended till November 15th, 2011. I also want to thank, I'll move from that. That does not cover federal, and it is not covered by the federal declaration of the level that we've received so far. Knowing that some people are going to miss this deadline, we will continue to have discussions with the federal government about an extension that would apply retroactively. I want to thank Pratt and UTC for giving us access to the National Guard, giving access to the National Guard for their runway for storm relief efforts, and distribution will be up and running tomorrow. I want to say on trains, Metro North, New Canaan, Shoreline East are on normal schedule. Danbury and Waterbury lines are still running on limited bus schedule. Bus service is running everywhere, but in Waterbury, buses have delays and some routes have been canceled due to snow problems. Bradley Airport is mostly normal. Check with your airline in case of any rescheduled flights or delays. We are working on a power problem out there, and it is a priority to get it back to regular power, but they have sufficient generated power on site to continue operations. Roads, interstates are in very good shape. Rural roads are still bad, and we have to acknowledge that is both a municipal problem, a power problem, and in some cases a state problem. Although we've made substantial progress since I last spoke to you on state roads. We cleared about 100 of the roads that had a blockage earlier today. State closures, state employees, check with the website www.ct.gov with respect to your own location. There were about 18 locations that were without power, which is to say that most state employees reported today to facilities that had power or are required in the case of some of the some services to report. Regardless, that information is available. Voter registration. Today was the deadline to register to vote in the November election. We have, by executive order, extended the deadline in which to register to participate in the November 8th elections till November 7th at 12 p.m. Excuse me, I'm announcing it. I will sign the executive order tomorrow morning. But many people were concerned that they had missed the deadline as of today. That is not the case. By executive order, we are extending it to November 7th at 12 p.m. No one will lose their right to vote as a result of this storm. I want to go back to an item that I've touched upon earlier today with, I guess, quite urgent terms, and that is about carbon monoxide. There was a spike in emergency calls for carbon monoxide poisoning. Do not use gas grills in the house, portable generators in the house. If you're charging your cell phone with your car, do not do that in your garage. Move the car out of your garage if you're going to run it to charge your battery. I think in many ways, right now, that's the biggest threat to people's safety, public safety, and so we're asking people to be aware of that. Also, a quick note, batteries are available, and if you have a carbon monoxide tester that's battery run, why don't you change the batteries while we're all at it. Now I'd like to ask Jim Torgensen to give the United Illuminating update, then Jeff Butler to give the Northeast Utilities update, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you, Governor. And we do know how difficult this has been for people, and we're doing everything we can. Our crews are working tirelessly to get customers back on. We have restored 46,000 customers. We still have 7,400 out as of now. Our expectation that we'd get them all back by tonight is probably not going to happen. We'll probably have a few more that'll take until tomorrow, but we will get those back by tomorrow. We had 64 line crews and 27 tree crews out there, and our people are just doing a phenomenal job working in very difficult conditions, so I got to give them a lot of credit. We also had patrollers, wires down, service crews, so we had a total of about 159 crews out today. And we should have, as I said, we have about 7,400 customers out. As of this point, we should have them all back by tomorrow. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Jeff Butler.
Thank you, Governor. I'm going to provide an update today on where we're at. We've restored approximately 170,000 customers to date. We still have 740,000 out of service. As far as the priorities, we continue to work with both the towns and the states on road clearing, which is a massive effort across certainly the Northwest. And we continue on our transmission restoration. I'll give an update where we're at on that. Based on the additional crews we have coming in tomorrow, I expect to see an increase in restoration of both critical customers, but also as we focused on Irene, looking at this restoration effort, focusing on the downtown areas and the hardest hit areas so that we can get the basic services back. Gas stations, grocery stores, pharmacies, those types of things. We'll continue with the patrols and assessments as well. Crew updates, where we're at right now, today we have 314 line crews working, 185 tree crews for a total of 599 crews. Tomorrow, I expect, based on the commitments we received from outside, 519 total line crews working, 326 tree crews for a total of 845. That does not include UI crews, which I anticipate that we'll be receiving sometime tomorrow as well. On Wednesday, we expect to have a total of 617 crews, line crews, 442 tree crews for a total of 1,059 crews. And then on Thursday, 817 crews, 442 tree crews for a total of 1,259. That leaves us, as I mentioned earlier, 350 line crews we're still trying to fill, and 168 tree crews. Separately is the transmission issue. As mentioned, we continue to make that a priority. We currently have 13 critical transmission circuits still out. We actually expect 6 of those to be restored this evening, 6 tomorrow, and the last one on Wednesday. So we understand that the challenges the customers face, not only with the basis of life, but also given the cold temperatures, it is very challenging. We understand that. We're doing everything possible to expedite not only the road closings, road openings where we have trees down, wires down, but also the restoration of power. And as Jim mentioned with you, I'm very proud of the job that our employees are doing. Given the fact it was less than 2 months ago when we were dealing with Irene, they're back dealing with, I would actually say, more difficult and challenging when you look at the amount of trees down and throughout the state that were certainly in the northwest portion of the state. And reiterating what the governor mentioned is the safety and recognizing there is wires down, the need to be cautious, be safe. It is Halloween. You know, parents should watch their kids, but really make sure that they stay away from any type of wires on the ground. Thank you very much.
Okay, questions?
Jeff, could we just ask you before you leave the podium, concerning these transmission lines, when those are restored, does that mean whole towns and whole sections go back up, or do you still not able to put people up because there are lines down within those jurisdictions?
Yeah. That allows us to put power back to the substation. We will restore power into distribution, but many of those distribution lines will also have trouble. So, yeah, people should not expect everything that's fed out of that substation to be energized, but it does allow us, if we have critical customers out of that substation, things like that, to really focus on getting those power back.
And the high priority in these municipalities is the central business district in each town.
Correct. And places like wastewater plants and all the facilities that the towns and the state are identifying as critical facilities that need power back. Hospitals, police, fire, things like that.
I think it was said over the weekend that you indicated you could have the vast majority of people back in a week. Is that still inaccurate, or do you think you might take longer?
That's what we're working to achieve.
So what does a week mean, by Saturday?
We actually peaked, we hit the 831,000 customers out at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
So Sunday to Sunday.
Can you explain why the transmission lines went down? I mean, obviously they're in electrical right-of-way, so there's no sort of debris that would have fallen on them aside from the snow.
Virtually every one went down as a result of trees.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have not only lines down, we also have structures damaged as a result of trees outside the normal right-of-way that fell down and took out both the lines and in some cases knocked down or damaged structures that got to be repaired.
Jeff, could you explain a little more, just so I can understand these critical transmission lines? Like, what size of the customer base are they? Do they represent? I mean, if one critical transmission line goes down.
Well, when I talk about critical, it's about substation, a transmission line that feeds a substation that may not have another source. So you only have a single transmission line or 2 transmission lines that feed a substation. That if you lose that line, there's no power, no source to that substation, which means then we don't have the ability to serve our customers.
And what kind of a customer base can be served by one substation?
It varies depending where it is, but literally thousands in some cases.
Has CMP been trying to cut back in a lot of these trees since Irene? I know there's been a lot of talk about trying to come up with a different type of tree cutting plan.
Well, we have certainly continued with our tree removal tree trimming that we have now, and it's an issue that has been discussed at the panels and the hearings that we've been involved with. And I really do believe this is a question for not only the utilities but also working with the state and the towns. In the past, in some towns, it's been very difficult to get permission to cut trees. And in Irene, you saw the trees fall over and be damaged. This time, a lot of the damage was done for the trees that overhang our lines that got loaded up with snow and then came down on top of them. So you have a different type of damage that's occurring. But trees are the single biggest issue, once again, that has affected electric reliability in the state of Connecticut.
So really you haven't been able to step it up, I guess, since Irene, because you're waiting on the state to make a decision?
We've continued our vegetation program. We're going through the hearings, and we intend to work with the state on how to address this going forward if we're going to improve reliability.
Governor, can you explain this price control on the price of gasoline that's been imposed by the Attorney General?
I think it would be better to get more information from the Attorney General. At my most recent meeting, I had the Commissioner Consumer Protection on. He announced that the Attorney General, it basically has to do with the fluctuating price and how much prices can be raised off of the delivered from the terminal price.
I see. Okay. So whatever the station owner pays, it controls the amount that he
cannot
adds
enlarge
on.
the margin.
Right. I get it. I understand. And you're absolutely certain that the terminal in New Haven can get
All right,
to
you've
these
been
stations.
watching and listening live from the State Armory, where the governor and the key players from the power companies are giving an update on this autumn nor'easter. We'll have much more news after this break. Don't go away.